To make the introduction quick, in the book it talks about question strategies and the fact that there are teacher or assessment questions, and then there are also student or inquiry-based questions. And so but they also make the point that it's important for students to distinguish between both of them. And so that, because they are going to be asked teacher assessment questions at different times, and they have to be able to answer those questions. But they also should, where the rubber meets the road is really in those questions that students create based on what they want to learn about the topic. And so our lesson today is basically, we're going to give you some teacher assessment questions to answer, but also the other part of that is to be able to come up with questions on your own about what you want to know. And so we're not expecting long answers because of the time. Each of you have a book at your table. We're going to model using Henry's Freedom Box. All of them are on slavery. And so our teacher assessment question for Chad is, why was it called the Underground Railroad?
Okay, and then I'm gonna do a little read aloud, just a couple pages to try to get a gist of some help with that answer, or to answer that question, and then to lead to the inquiry type question. And Barb, you probably will want to join because there's only 3 books, so you might want to scoot over. The video will be good as you're moving, as you're coming through. So when we get going, you'll want to join Elaine and Emma. So for those of you, this is Henry's Freedom Box. I'm going to jump into the middle of it, trying to get into sort of the meat and potatoes of it. His friend, James, came into the factory. He whispered to Henry, "Your wife and children were just sold at the slave market." "No," cried Henry. Henry couldn't move. He couldn't think. He couldn't work. "Twist that tobacco," the boss poked Henry. Henry twisted tobacco leaves, his heart twisted in his chest. At lunchtime, Henry rushed to the center of town. A large group of slaves was tied together. The owner shouted at them. Henry looked for his family. "Father, father!" Henry watched his children disappear down the road. Where was Nancy? He saw her the same moment that she saw him. When he wiped away his tears, Nancy too was gone. Henry no longer sang. He couldn't hum. He went to work, and at night he ate supper and went to bed. Henry tried to think of happy times, but all he could see were the carts carrying away everyone he loved. Henry knew he would never see his family again. Many weeks passed. One morning, Henry heard singing. A little bird flew out of a tree into the open sky, and Henry thought about being free. But how? As he lifted a crate, he knew the answer. He asked James and Dr. Smith to help him. Dr. Smith was a white man who thought slavery was wrong. They met early the next day at an empty warehouse. Henry arrived with a box. "I will mail myself to a place where there are no slaves," he said. James stared at the box, then at Henry. "What if you cough and someone hears you?" "I will cover my mouth and hope," Henry said. Dr. Smith wrote on the box, "To William H. Johnson, Arch Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania." Henry would be delivered to friends in Philadelphia. Then he printed on the crate in big letters, "This side up with care." So the question that the assessment question that we want to explore is, what is the Underground Railroad? So I'm going to start over here. And we're going to use a web, sort of the web questioning. And so that's, put the Underground Railroad in the center. So David, what is, from the reading and your understanding, what's the Underground Railroad?
I interrupted him to ask him to tell you all the page number for the strategies.
Okay.
Depends on which version of the book you have. It's either chapter 9 or chapter 10, depending on which.
One thing I thought of when I read that is, it's scary, it's dangerous. And so, that was probably something to me that made, if I was Henry, that's scary. If I coughed and they heard me, then, that's one thing. One of the other things I thought of is, I hear Underground Railroad, I think it's underground, and there's an actual railroad. No, that's not how Henry got there. He was in a crate And so one thing that I thought of was it's not really a railroad and it's not underground. Let's do a couple. Anything, David, that when you read it that what the Underground Railroad is?
It's something that happens in secret.
And then another one that I thought, and I don't know if you got, but it was a Dr. Smith. He was white, and he thought slavery was wrong, and he helped them. And so it's sort of like a network of people working together.
Right. It's connected just like train cars. So.
Yep. So this would be the assessment question. And so